Close your eyes and let us drift back, far back, to a time when the world moved at the pace of flowing water. Over 4,000 years ago, along the banks of the mighty Indus River, a civilization thrived in quiet harmony with the land. Great cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa rose in brick and order. But today, we do not speak of kings or conquests. Instead, we follow the humble fishermen whose lives were woven into the river's endless rhythm. Picture the first light of dawn, pale gold spilling over the horizon, the air cool and damp with the scent of wet earth and reeds. The river, wide and slow-moving, reflects the sky like polished bronze. Along its banks, small boats made of bundled reeds or hollowed-out logs rest where they were pulled ashore the evening before. The fishermen are already stirring, their day beginning long before the heat settles in. The river and its people. The Indus was more than water. It was life itself. Its floods brought rich silt to the fields, its currents carried trade, and its depths teemed with fish, catfish, carp, and the occasional mighty mahseer. For the fishermen, the river was both provider and home. Their villages clustered near the water's edge, houses built of mud brick with roofs of thatched reeds, simple but sturdy against the monsoon winds. Inside one such dwelling, a fisherman wakes to the faint chirping of birds. The floor is packed earth, swept smooth. A few woven mats serve as bedding. His tools, a net of twisted hemp, a bone hook, a clay weight, lie waiting by the door. His wife kneels by the hearth, stirring a morning meal of millet porridge, perhaps flavored with wild herbs or a handful of dried fish from yesterday's catch. The smoke curls lazily upward, carrying the scent of warmth and comfort. A morning routine. Stepping outside, the fisherman breathes in the damp air. The village is quiet, save for the soft murmur of neighbors beginning their day. Children still sleep. Elders stir the embers of last night's fire. He walks toward the riverbank, his feet pressing into the soft mud where the water has receded with the dry season. His boat, a simple, sturdy thing, is already waiting, its reed fibers swollen from years of use. With practiced hands, he checks his net. It is old, but well mended, each knot tied with care. Fishing is not just work. It is a craft, passed down through generations. His father taught him how to read the river's moods, where the fish gather in the shallows, how to cast so the net spreads like a falling leaf upon the water. The first cast. The boat glides silently into the river, the only sound the faint ripple of water against its sides. The fisherman stands, balancing with ease, and with a smooth motion, he sends the net flying. It settles with a quiet splash, the weights pulling it deep. Now he waits. The world is still. The sun climbs higher, painting the water in shimmering streaks of light. Somewhere in the distance, a heron takes flight, its wings slow and graceful. This is the fisherman's meditation, the patient, unhurried rhythm of the river. There is no rush, no urgency. The fish will come when they come. The net will be drawn in when the time is right. For now, there is only the water, the sky, and the quiet certainty of a routine as old as the Indus itself. And so, the fisherman's day begins, not with clamor or haste, but with the steady, soothing pulse of the river. In our next chapter, we will follow him further, into the heart of his craft, the making of nets and hooks, and the quiet wisdom of those who live by water. In the quiet hours between dawn and midday, when the river is calm and the sun not yet at its height, the fishermen of the Indus turned to another kind of work, the mending and making of their tools. For them, a net is more than hemp and knots. It is a lifeline, shaped by patience and skill. Today, we sit beside them, watching as their hands weave, twist, and carve the simple yet essential instruments of their trade. The art of the net. The fisherman's net is a marvel of simplicity, strong, flexible, and born from the earth itself. Made from hemp or flax, the fibers are first soaked in the river to soften them, then carefully twisted into cord. The work is slow, methodical. A woman sits in the shade of a thatched awning, her fingers moving steadily as she rolls strands against her thigh, spinning them into twine. Nearby, her husband knots the cords together, forming a mesh that will one day settle like a second skin over the water. Each knot is deliberate, each space between them measured by eye and habit. Some nets are wide, meant to be cast from boats. Others are smaller, handheld traps for the shallows. The patterns vary, some diamond-shaped, others square, but all are made to hold fast against the river's currents. When the work is done, the net is hung to dry, its fibers tightening in the sun, ready for the next day's catch. Bone and shell, the making of hooks. Not all fish are taken by net. Some, the clever ones, the quick ones, must be lured. For these, there are hooks carved from bone or shell. A craftsman sits cross-legged outside his home, a pile of buffalo ribs or mussel shells beside him. With a flint blade, he scores the bone, snapping it into slender splinters. Then, with a sandstone block, he grinds each piece into a curve, smoothing the edges until they are sharp enough to pierce, but not so sharp as to break. The work is silent, save for the scrape of stone on bone. There is no hurry. A well-made hook can last for seasons, passed down from father to son. Some are barbed, others are simple curves, weighted with a clay bead or a pebble to sink them deeper. Each is a small masterpiece of function, shaped by generations of knowledge. Clay and stone, weights and sinkers. A net must sink to catch, and so the fishermen turn to the riverbank for one last tool, the weight. These are often nothing more than smooth stones, grooved to hold a cord, but some are shaped from clay, pinched between fingers and fired in a low, smoky kiln. A child kneels by the water, pressing pebbles into damp clay discs, her hands mimicking the motions she has seen her elders make. When dried, these weights will be tied to the nets, pulling them gently beneath the surface, where the fish glide unseen. A ritual of repair. As the sun climbs higher, the fishermen gather in patches of shade, their nets spread across their laps. A torn mesh is not thrown away, it is salvaged, rewoven. A broken hook is reshaped. Even the oldest tools are kept, for nothing is wasted here. The work is meditative, the conversations sparse and soft. Sometimes a song rises, a low, rhythmic hum, matching the pace of their fingers. The river murmurs in reply. And so the tools are made, again and again, in an unbroken cycle as old as the river itself. In our next chapter, we will drift further into the fisherman's day, to the casting of nets, the waiting, and the first silver flicker of a catch. But for now, let the rhythm of weaving hands lull you, and sleep well. The nets are mended, the hooks sharpened. Now comes the quiet heart of the fisherman's day. The river stretches before him, wide and shimmering, its surface dappled with early light. He pushes his reed boat forward, the hull whispering through the shallows, until the water deepens beneath him. Here, where the current slows and the reeds thin, he prepares to cast his net once more. Reading the water. A fisherman does not simply throw his net at random. He reads the river like a scholar reads a scroll. The way the light dances on ripples, where the water swirls around hidden rocks, how the birds gather in certain spots, pecking at unseen prey below. Today, he chooses a place where the bank curves inward, creating a sheltered eddy. Fish come here to rest, to feed. He stands slowly, balancing with toes curled over the boat's edge, and with a practiced flick of his wrists, the net fans out over the water. It sinks with barely a sound. The clay waits, pulling it down. Now, he waits. The boat drifts lazily. Dragonflies skim the surface. Somewhere upstream, a turtle slides off a sun-warmed rock. Time stretches, liquid and slow. There is no need to count the minutes. The fisherman knows, in his bones, when to draw the net back in. The first fish of the day. A tremor travels up the ropes. Something moves within the net. The fisherman begins to pull, hand over hand, the fibers creaking faintly. The net emerges, dripping, and there, flashing silver in the sunlight, are the day's first fish. 2 fat catfish, their whiskers twitching, and a handful of smaller river carp, their scales still slick with water. He disentangles them with care, dropping them into a woven basket lined with damp reeds to keep them fresh. Not every cast brings bounty. Sometimes the net comes up light, a few tiny fish, or nothing at all. But the fisherman does not fret. The river gives when it chooses. He will try again further downstream, near the stands of tall reeds where the water runs shallow and warm. The rhythm of repetition. Cast, wait, pull. Cast, wait, pull. The motions are as familiar as breathing. By mid-morning, his basket holds a modest haul, enough to feed his family, perhaps a little extra to trade. His muscles ache pleasantly. The sun is high now, pressing warm on his back. He dips a clay cup into the river, drinking deeply. The water is cool, faintly earthy, alive with the taste of the land it has traveled through. Around him, other boats drift, neighbors, friends. Occasionally, a call echoes across the water, a few words about the fishing or the weather. But mostly, there is silence. The work requires no words. The river speaks for them all. A moment of stillness. As noon approaches, the fisherman pauses. He lets the boat rock gently, his fingers trailing in the water. Beneath the surface, the world is shadowed and cool. Tadpoles darting, water plants swaying with the current. A kingfisher dives nearby, emerging with a minnow in its beak. For a moment, he is not a fisherman, but simply a man, small and grateful in the presence of something so much older than himself. Then, with a sigh, he gathers his net once more. There is time for a few more casts before the heat drives him home. And so the morning passes, in quiet labor, in patient waiting, in the age-old dance between human hands and the river's gifts. In our next chapter, we will follow the fisherman home, to where the smell of cooking fish curls through the village, and the day's catch becomes the evening's meal. But for now, let the rocking of the boat lull you, and sleep well. The sun climbs higher now, its heat pressing gently on the backs of the fishermen as they guide their boats toward home. The morning's catch, some silver, some bronze-scaled, rests in baskets lined with river reeds, their gills still fluttering faintly. Along the bank, children pause in their games to watch the boats return, while women set aside their weaving to meet their husbands and brothers. The village stirs with the quiet energy of a day's work coming full circle. The weight of the catch. The fisherman steps from his boat, his feet sinking slightly into the soft mud of the shore. He lifts his basket, feeling its satisfying weight. Enough for today, perhaps a little extra. Nearby, an elder inspects his own catch, nodding approval at the plump catfish tangled in the net. There is no boasting here, no tallying of who caught the most. The river has given what it will. The fishermen take only what they need. A young boy, no more than 6 summers old, wades into the shallows to help drag the boat higher onto the bank. His small hands mimic his father's movements, earnest and careful. One day, this too will be his rhythm. The push and pull of the river, the heft of the nets. For now, he is content to splash in the water, chasing minnows as the men work. The division of the haul. Back in the shade of the huts, the catch is laid out on broad leaves, silvery carp, a few eels still twisting, the occasional perch with its spiny fins. The fisherman's wife kneels beside them, her fingers deft as she sorts the fish, some for smoking, some for the evening meal, the smallest perhaps salted and saved for leaner days. Her daughter watches, learning the art of preservation without a word being spoken. A neighbor approaches with a basket of millet. A silent trade is made, fish for grain. No scales, no coins, just hands extended and goods exchanged. Further down the lane, a potter offers a finely made jar in return for a share of the catch. The fisherman nods, pleased. The jar will hold water, or perhaps dried lentils, and the potter's family will eat well tonight. This is how the village thrives, not through hoarding, but through sharing. Cleaning the tools. The nets must be rinsed free of silt, the hooks checked for damage. The fisherman's son helps spread the nets across the sun-warmed stones, picking out bits of weed and smoothing the fibers. Nearby, a grandmother sits with a bone needle, repairing a small tear in a neighboring family's net. Her eyes are no longer sharp enough for fishing, but her hands remember every knot, every stitch. The work is slow, communal. No one hurries. The first meal of the day. With the catch sorted and the tools tended to, it is time to eat. The fisherman's wife has prepared flatbreads of barley and millet, baked on a clay griddle over the hearth. A few small fish, roasted in the embers, are laid atop them, their skins crisp and fragrant with wild cumin. The family gathers in the shade of their courtyard, eating with their fingers, licking the traces of oil from their hands. The fisherman sighs, stretching his legs. The morning's labor is done. The afternoon's rest awaits. And so the fisherman's morning ends, not with fanfare, but with fullness, with quiet satisfaction. In our next chapter, we will step into the shadows of the afternoon, where the village slows and the river's children take their rest. But for now, let the murmurs of the settling village lull you, and sleep well. The white sun hangs heavy now, pressing the village into stillness. The fishermen have returned, their nets spread across warm stones to dry. In the shade of mud brick walls, bodies curl into rest. A grandmother dozing with her chin to her chest. A young boy sprawled belly down on cool earth, his fingers still clutching a half-carved toy boat. Even the river seems to move slower, its currents drowsy with midday warmth. The architecture of shade. Houses here are built for this, the long siege of afternoon heat. Their thick walls swallow the sun's bite, their small windows let in only thin fingers of light. A woman leans in the rectangle of shade by her doorway, grinding cumin with a smooth stone. The rhythmic crunch-scrape of pestle on mortar joins the cicada's song, one more thread in the village's somnolent tapestry. In the communal courtyard, beneath a canopy of woven reeds, an old man slowly turns fish on a smoking rack. The fire is banked low, its heat just enough to coax moisture from the flesh without hurry. Every hour or so, he'll stir to rotate them, his movements automatic between naps. The smell, wood smoke and curing fish, hangs sweet and heavy in the air. The children's quiet time. Children who escaped the morning chores now play in stolen moments. Two girls crouch by the river's edge, floating tiny reed boats laden with pebble fish. A boy traces spirals in the dirt with a stick, half dreaming. Their laughter comes soft, muted by the heat. Even play must yield to the sun's dominion. In the elder's house, a grandfather begins a story. Not the booming tales of heroes told at festivals, but a murmuring account of the river's moods, how to read clouds when monsoon lingers on the horizon. The children listening fight to keep their eyes open, lids drooping like the wings of tired dragonflies. The art of doing nothing. A young fisherman sits against a neem tree, idly braiding a new rope from hemp fibers. There is no urgency. The work is for tomorrow, or the day after. His wife dozes nearby, her head pillowed on a folded shawl, one hand still curled around a half-woven basket. Between them, a clay cup of mint-infused water sweats in the heat. This is not idleness, but a different kind of labor, the cultivation of stillness. The body repairs itself. The mind drifts like a leaf on slow water. Even the dogs understand, stretched flat in whatever shade they can claim, twitching paws the only sign they haven't turned to stone. The river's lullaby. The Indus itself seems to breathe slower. Water striders skate across its surface undisturbed. Kingfishers perch unmoving on overhanging branches. A lone fisherman still sits in his boat, but his net lies folded beside him. He has come not to work, but to be cradled by the water's gentle rocking, to let the river seep into his bones. His eyelids grow heavy. And so the village dreams beneath the sun's golden hand. In our next chapter, we will witness the evening's awakening, the stirring of fires, the mending of tools, and the first sense of supper curling through the cooling air. But for now, let this shared stillness wrap around you like a well-worn shawl, and sleep well. The sun leans west now, its heat softening like butter on warm stone. Shadows stretch long across the packed earth lanes as the village stirs from its afternoon slumber. A woman rolls onto her side, blinking away sleep's cobwebs. A fisherman rubs his face, his neck stiff from napping against a storage jar. The dogs are first to rise, shaking off dust before trotting toward the cooking fires, already scenting the air with cumin and charred fish. The rekindling of hearths. In the courtyard's fading light, a grandmother coaxes flames from banked embers. She feeds the fire with dried buffalo dung, careful, precious fuel, then balances a clay pot atop the tripod stones. Inside, yesterday's lentils will simmer with wild onions and a pinch of turmeric traded from upland farmers. Nearby, her daughter grinds soaked barley between two stones, the rhythmic scraping a quiet proclamation that the household has rejoined the waking world. From house to house, similar scenes unfold. The clatter of cooking stones, the hiss of water poured over parched grain, the occasional yawn that turns into a stretch. A toddler, sticky with sleep, whines until his mother presses a piece of date paste into his palm. The sweetness makes him forget his drowsy tears. The men's return to the river's edge. The fishermen don't go far this time. only to the shallows where the evening light slants gold through the reeds. They carry small hand nets now, or lines with single hooks, seeking just enough for supper. There's no need for boats. They wade hip-deep, their movements languid as the water caresses their tired muscles. One man hums, a tuneless sound, just vibration in his chest, as he watches for the telltale ripple of fish drawn to the cooling shallows. A teenage boy, left to tend the smoking racks, steals moments to skip flat stones across the river's glassy surface. Each skip sends concentric rings across the water. Brief, beautiful, gone. His father pretends not to notice the neglected fish. The gathering of stories. Where three lanes meet, beneath a gnarled acacia tree, the elders begin to congregate. A pot of mint tea passes from hand to weathered hand. The day's small events are recounted. The birth of twin goats in the potter's yard, the strange bird seen upstream, the mended net that held strong. There's laughter here, but it's the kind that rolls slow like honey. No sharp edges, just warmth. A traveling storyteller, arrived with the salt merchants last moon, nurses a clay cup and listens. He collects these fragments like a heron collects minnows, storing them away to weave into tales when the rains come and the villagers gather indoors. For now, he simply smiles and savors the tea's bitterness on his tongue. The children's last energy. With the worst heat past, the children find renewed vigor. Girls play a hopping game scratched into the dirt, their braids swinging. Boys dare each other to touch the old fig tree said to house spirits. A toddler chases fireflies already blinking in the purple twilight, her giggles rising like bubbles in the heavy air. Mothers watch from doorways, arms crossed, knowing this burst of energy must burn itself out before bedtime. One calls her son to help grind spices, a clever ruse to begin winding him down. He comes reluctantly, but soon the rocking motion of the grinding stone lulls him into quiet focus. And so the village eases into evening, not with ceremony, but with the unspoken harmony of shared rhythm. In our next chapter, we will gather around the cooking fires as day's last light fades, where stories rise with the aromatic steam of evening meals. But for now, let the murmurs of this peaceful awakening cradle you, and sleep well. As the last amber light fades behind the acacia trees, the village gathers around its fires. Clay pots exhale aromatic steam, fish stewed with turmeric and ginger, flatbreads puffing on hot stones, millet porridge bubbling at the edges. The day's labor has ripened into this moment, where hands still rough from nets and ropes now cradle warm bowls, where stories pass as freely as the shared dishes. The alchemy of the evening pot. In one courtyard, a young wife stirs a clay pot with a carved wooden spoon. The broth within is cloudy with pounded barley and flecked with green, wild fenugreek gathered by the river bank. Her mother-in-law drops in a knucklebone saved from yesterday's meal, letting its marrow bleed richness into the liquid. Nearby, a child blows on a too-hot morsel of fish, his round cheeks puffing with each exaggerated exhale. The flavors here are earthy, uncomplicated. River fish balanced by bitter herbs, sweetness drawn from dried dates, the occasional precious pinch of mountain salt traded from afar. No two pots taste alike, yet each carries the same quiet satisfaction of food earned by one's own hands. The ritual of sharing. A man breaks his flatbread into pieces, handing the largest portion to his aging father first. Next door, a widow receives a bowl of stew from her neighbor. Her own hearth gone cold 3 winters past, but the village keeps her fed. The fisherman's daughter carefully picks bones from a carp, placing the clean flesh on her little brother's leaf plate when he's too impatient to do it himself. This is the unwritten law. However meager the catch, no one eats alone. Even the traveling storyteller finds a place at the potter's fire, his tales repaying the lentil stew and roasted fish pressed into his hands. The language of full silence. At first, there's only the sound of chewing, of lips smacking appreciatively. A contented sigh here, the scrape of a bowl there. Words come later, when bellies are no longer hollow. An elder wipes his fingers on his dhoti and begins recounting how the river flooded this very spot when he was a boy, how the fish swam right into their courtyard. The children listen, wide-eyed, though they've heard this story a dozen times before. The fire pops, sending up a shower of sparks. Someone laughs. A baby nurses sleepily at its mother's breast. The rhythms of mealtime are as familiar as the river's currents. No need to rush, no need to fill every moment with noise. The slow unwinding. As the last bites disappear, postures soften. A teenager sprawls on his back, staring at the emerging stars. A grandmother combs her fingers through a child's hair, working out the day's tangles. The fires burn lower now, their light painting faces in flickering amber and shadow. One by one, the villagers begin their nighttime rituals, rinsing mouths with water from a shared jar, rolling out sleeping mats, whispering final thoughts to the fading day. The fisherman checks his drying nets by touch in the dim light, fingers tracing the repairs made that morning. All is as it should be. And so the day concludes, not with an ending, but with the gentle turning of the wheel toward rest. In our next chapter, we will slip into the velvet darkness of the Indus night, where dreams mingle with the whispers of the river. But for now, let the embers glow warm your thoughts, and sleep well. The village sleeps now. The last cooking fires have burned down to embers, their glow fading like closing eyes. The huts stand dark and silent, their thatched roofs silvered by the moon. Only the river remains truly awake, its black waters whispering secrets to the banks as it has for 1,000 generations. Tonight, we walk its shores in the hush between midnight and dawn, where the boundary between the waking world and dreams grows thin. The nocturnal currents. The Indus moves differently at night, not in its course, but in its voice. Without the sun's heat to churn the shallows, the water finds deeper tones, a murmuring bass beneath the day's bright chatter. Catfish glide through the submerged roots of banyan trees, their whiskers brushing the silty bottom. Occasionally, a splash rings out, perhaps an otter hunting, or a turtle adjusting its perch on a half-submerged log. Far out in the channel, where the water runs swift and cold, something large breaks the surface. A mahseer, silver as a dagger in the moonlight, before vanishing into the depths again. The river keeps its own rhythms now, unseen by human eyes. The village in repose. Under the stars, the sleeping forms of the villagers rise and fall with steady breath. A child mumbles in her dreams, her small fingers clutching a carved wooden fish. An old man snores lightly, his chest rising like the slow swell of a tide. The night air carries the scent of damp earth and smoked fish, of sun-warmed mud bricks cooling at last. Only the dogs remain watchful, ears twitching at every rustle in the reeds. One rises, pads to the water's edge for a drink, then circles twice before settling again. Their vigilance is quiet, effortless, the ancient pact between humans and canines honored even in slumber. The fisherman's vigil. Not every soul has surrendered to sleep. In one hut near the riverbank, a man sits awake, his back against the wall. Tomorrow, he will join the traders traveling to Mohenjo-daro, his first time leaving the village since childhood. The river's constancy has always been his compass. Now he must learn to navigate without it. He steps outside, bare feet silent on the packed earth. The moonlight shows the path clearly as he walks to the water's edge. Kneeling, he cups his hands and drinks, one last taste of home to carry in his body. The river accepts this small offering without comment, flowing onward as it always has, as it always will. Dreams. Along the banks, in the huts, dreams rise like mist. The fisherman's youngest daughter chases luminous fish through liquid starlight. His wife walks through a field of impossibly tall barley, each stalk heavy with grain. The potter, who spent the day shaping clay, now molds clouds between his fingers. And the river itself dreams of monsoon rains yet to come, of forgotten villages swallowed by its floods, of the distant mountains where its waters are born. The dreams of humans and nature intertwine here, brief reflections glimpsed in dark water before dissolving at dawn's first touch. And so the night deepens, not empty, but full of unseen life, of quiet transformations. In our next chapter, we will greet the dawn once more, watching as the village stirs to meet the new day's possibilities. But for now, let the river's endless murmur carry you into dreams, and sleep well. Night loosens its grip. The stars fade one by one, like embers cooling in last night's fire. Along the eastern horizon, the sky pales to the color of bruised river reeds, soft purple yielding to gold. The village exists in this breath between darkness and day, suspended like a dewdrop on a spider's web. Soon, the world will wake. But for now, there is only this: the first fragile light, the first stirrings of life, the silent return of the sun. The river's transformation. Moonlight surrenders to dawn. The Indus, black and fathomless only moments before, now glows bronze at its edges. Mist rises from its surface in curling tendrils, vanishing as the sun's first fingers stretch across the water. A heron stands motionless in the shallows, its reflection sharpening as the light grows. The night's secrets, the otter's hunt, the mahsir's passing, are forgotten as the river prepares to give itself to the day once more. The fisherman who kept vigil now kneels at the bank, splashing cold water on his face. His journey to Mohenjo-daro begins today, but for this moment, he is still here, still home. The water runs down his beard, drips from his chin. He drinks deeply, as if to store the taste of his river within him. The village emerges. Doors creak open. A woman steps outside, stretching stiff muscles before kneeling to rekindle the hearth. The scent of last night's ashes mingles with the morning's first threads of smoke. Nearby, a child mumbles in half-sleep as his mother coaxes him awake with a handful of soaked barley sweetened with honey. An elder emerges from his hut, blinking like a turtle. He performs his morning ritual without thought, right hand to heart, then forehead, then lips, a silent greeting to the sun as it crests the distant trees. The village comes alive in fragments, the scrape of a grinding stone, the slap of wet clay as the potter begins his work, the rustle of reed mats being rolled and stored. The parting. The traveling party gathers at the village's edge. 3 fishermen carrying dried catch to trade, 2 young men seeking work in the city's brickworks, an old salt merchant with his donkey. Their families hover nearby, offering last-minute gifts: a pouch of river water, a charm of braided hemp, a clay whistle to signal safe arrival. The fisherman embraces his wife, his children. His daughter presses her favorite stone into his palm, smooth and oval, perfect for skipping. He tucks it into his belt, a piece of home to weigh him down and keep him grounded. Then, with a final glance at the river that raised him, he turns toward the road. The cycle begins. Anew, behind them, the village continues its waking. Nets are untangled, hooks inspected. A boy leads goats to graze in the dewy grass. The rhythms of yesterday become the rhythms of today. The same, yet never quite identical. The river has shifted its course imperceptibly in the night. New fish move through its depths. The sun's angle has changed by a hair's breadth. Life here is a spiral, not a circle, always returning, always moving forward. The fisherman walking toward Mohenjo-daro carries his village with him, just as the village carries the memory of all who have left, and all who will return. And so the day begins, not with a beginning, but with a continuation. In our final chapter, we will follow the threads that bind this village together: the quiet traditions, the shared labor, the river that gives and takes in equal measure. But for now, let the gentle certainty of dawn's return soothe you. And sleep well. The days pass. The river bends. The fishermen cast their nets, mend their boats, and return home with the setting sun. Nothing here is permanent, and yet everything endures. The Indus does not remember the names of those who kneel at its banks, but it remembers their rhythms. The way they pull fish from its depths. The way they offer silent thanks. The way their children learn to read its currents just as their parents once did. This is not the history of kings or conquests. This is the story of hands shaping clay, of feet pressing into wet earth, of voices humming while the evening meal cooks. This is the quiet heartbeat of a civilization, steady, unbroken, flowing like the river itself. The unseen threads. Watch the potter's hands as they coax form from wet clay. The shape is familiar. A water jar, wide-mouthed and sturdy, its curves echoing the river's eddies. His fingers move without thought, guided by generations of muscle memory. Nearby, his daughter practices with her own lump of clay, her small hands imitating her father's motions. She will not master it today or tomorrow, but one day her jars will hold water just as well. The same thread connects the weaver at her loom, the boy learning to tie knots in his first fishing net, the grandmother showing her granddaughter how to grind spices just so. No grand ceremonies mark these passings of knowledge, only quiet moments, as natural as the river's flow. The gifts of the Indus. The river gives and the river takes. One year, the floods are generous, leaving behind fertile silt that cradles the barley seeds as they sprout. Another year, the waters rise too high, swallowing huts and washing away carefully stored grain. The villagers rebuild. They always rebuild. They know the river is not cruel nor kind. It simply is. They offer no grand sacrifices, no elaborate prayers. Instead, they give small tokens: a handful of grain scattered at the bank, a clay figurine placed where the current will claim it, a whispered word of thanks as the first fish of the season is released back into the water. Their respect is quiet, their gratitude steady. The circle unbroken. Seasons turn, children grow, elders pass on, their stories lingering like the scent of rain on dry earth. The fisherman who left for Mohenjo-daro returns, his shoulders broader, his eyes holding memories he has yet to share. He kneels at the river's edge, pressing his forehead to the damp soil. Home. That night, as the village gathers around the fires, he unpacks his travels, not in grand tales, but in small gifts. A block of salt wrapped in leaves, a handful of aromatic resin for the hearth, a smooth stone from far upstream, its edges worn by distant waters. His daughter clutches it to her chest, a treasure from a world beyond her own. The river continues. Years from now, the huts will crumble back into the earth. New ones will rise in their place. The pottery styles will shift. The fish hooks will evolve from bone to bronze. The songs will change their tune, but the river will remain. It will still murmur to those who listen. It will still feed those who understand its ways. And when archaeologists, centuries later, sift through the layers of mud and time, they will not find grand monuments to this village's existence. They will find fish bones and broken nets, clay weights and children's toys. They will find the quiet, enduring proof of lives lived in harmony with the water's rhythm. And so we leave them here, not because their story ends, but because it does not. The nets will be cast tomorrow. The bread will bake. The river will flow. Close your eyes now, and let the current carry you into dreams, where the Indus still whispers its ancient secrets. Sleep well.